Hi, friends. Welcome to another NATASHA DENONA eyeshadow palette review. This was an exciting release. When I first saw the leaks of the new Yucca palette, which by the way, I learned from watching Morgan's video when she was informed that it's not Yucca, which is what I immediately thought of when I saw that word. Because Yucca, the cassava vegetable that has a Puerto Rican, listen, all day, every day, is spelled with one C, and Yucca, as in the yucca plant, is spelled with two C's. That's the one with like the spiky leaves, and there's several species within that category of yucca plant. And the inspiration behind this beyond gorgeous palette, yes, I already got my fingers in here and I already have eye looks that I will cover in detail and will do more in this video, as well as go over the swatches and some comparisons. It's gonna be a long one. The timestamps are down below. But for the product details, this palette retails for $69. You get 15 eyeshadows in an array of different formulas. We'll go over those when dealing with the swatches. It is a magnetic frame. You have the pinholes here behind to dislodge the pans and arrange them as you like within this palette, or bring in other midi-sized pans from other palettes. That's gonna be a lot of fun. This is sold at Sephora. It was available early on for Rouge members. I pre-ordered this from NATASHA DENONA's website and was happy for it to have arrived so quickly. And I believe it will be available on Beautylish and Ulta if it's not already, and other Sephora retailers across the globe. And of course, this palette is made in Italy. And it has a 24-month suggested shelf life. Not too bad. But the design itself, this is a matte finish covering. I adore the color story and the inspiration behind this palette. It's as if the sunlight is hitting the yucca plant. If you were to envision it like inside a room and it's the twilight hour of the day, the sun is shining through and it casts that beautiful shadow on the wall with just the different tones and notes of orange, yellow, in the green, right? And this, I feel, is what I envision when that phenomenon happened. And for it to be captured within these shadows, I think NATASHA did an enormously beautiful job with this summer release. And in addition to the palette, we do have 3 eyeliners released in 3 limited, well, is it 3 limited edition or 2 out of, I think 2 out of the 3 are limited. I picked up Camu, which is, listen, the pencil itself, love that the construction represents the actual color, and I had to have this citrus lime shade because, as you see, I played with it liner style and it does coincide with the Camu color here in the palette. If you don't want to watch this full review and you think my videos are too long and you just want to know what I think about it right now, this perhaps is one of my most favorite NATASHA DENONA midi palettes, hands down, just from these 2 looks alone. Okay, and from other people when they wrote me on DMs were like, this palette right here, I'm interested. I think it's because of its delivery in earthiness, desaturated, not too vibrant, but just right. It has that perfect cocktail of mustard, olive, bronze, but in these tones that are just like, they're grounded, but they have impact at the same time, especially these metallics. She went off on the metallics in this palette, let me tell you. Here it says, balance of green browns for earthy, everyday, shimmering statement summer looks. And you could argue, I think this very much appropriate for fall because of the mustard olive tones found in this palette. So it can cover several seasons, you know, depending on you and how you would like to line your makeup with what's going on outside. Summer, fall, you could argue winter, you know, if you stick to the browns in here, but we're going to go over that in a sec. Let's begin with the first row. We'll swatch starting with Plantasia, a sparkling foiled green bronzy rosewood duochrome. This is like Yama from Zendo but on steroids. It's the exact duochrome arrangement, except the reflectivity is much shinier, too many words, in Plantasia. Look at that shade. It is absolutely gorgeous. Calathea is a matte medium dark green olive. This is the cream to powder formula, which I love to create softer nuances of blend on the lid. It's a nice formula for beginners to start with if they are intimidated by these shades in a matte form, but it's much lighter in texture and application. Gomorebi is a sparkling foiled mustard gold. I forgot which shade is the newer formula that debuted in the Love Face palette. Is either this one or Elysian. But look at that. Isn't that beautiful? The reflectivity is just stunning, but the undertone, it's like a taupiness about it, but it's bright at the same time. Acacia is a powder matte golden olive. I have Acacia here on, I believe, this eye. You'll see in the B-roll, but I love just like the grunginess of that shade. Camu Camu is the matte vibrant lime, inner corner, inner lower lash line. Fantastic pigmentation. You don't even need the liner for this to show. Okay, you could just tappity tap and it's all good. Tipu is the matte dusty mustard green. So you could see the through line here, mustard olive, but ooh, look how beautiful that is. All right, here we go, Elysian. I think Elysian is the newer formula that debuted in the Love Face palette. This is sparkling foiled medium taupe, and you can see it has a little more texture than Gomorebi, but it's look at that. Ooh, it's like a gunmetal, but shiny. Valley, we have a matte dusty mustard brown. So you can see the influence of mustard here. It does look like a warm brown, but I'm sure when paired with the other colors like Acacia and Tipu, more of that mustard undertone will come forward. Ray is the more subdued out of the 5 metallics in here. It is described to be as a metallic green gold, so you can see that it has more of an antique feel to it. Almost like treasure, like that's been around for a long time and it began to rust a little bit. Even though not as shiny as these two, beautiful color. Just outrageously smooth as well. Flax is the deepest matte in here, and it is a matte dark brown. Have this on the outer lid of this eye, and I have actually Calathea on this eye. Translates well on the blend. You can still see that it's brown, but especially paired with the olive undertone shades, it has that cooler effect, and dare I say, can lean a little like olive brown depending. You know what I mean? Fuji is the second cream to matte shade in the palette, and this is a light medium mustard yellow. Ooh, and this is the color that the other liner comes in. I was on the fence because, ooh, that's pretty. One of the warmer offerings from the entire palette. So you can immediately pair Plantasia, Valley together with Fuji if you wanted. But Fuji with Flax, that would be pretty. Maybe we should do that in the next demo. The last metallic is Macchia. Macchia is what I have here on this eye, and we have a sparkling foiled medium golden olive. This olive is special. It got flake, yes, but I love how it's not a straightforward olive. It has a little, the gold I think influences it to be high. We have another Alicia here. At this point in time, I am refilming the portion after what you just saw because yesterday when I tried to upload my audio files, my SD card decided to not be read by my computer. So we're gonna refilm what I did yesterday, but it's all good. It could be much worse. Let's continue, shall we? We left off at Macchia, which I'll swatch again. This is a sparkling foiled medium golden olive, and I love how it's not a straightforward olive. The more olive tone will be emphasized if you pair it, let's say, with Acacia. Is this Acacia? Yes, Acacia, Calathea, right? Versus if you paired it with Flax or Fuji. So we'll go over that when we get into the second demo, as well as the B-roll that I filmed. Thank God that card survived. Ixia is a matte burnt caramel, and because I haven't swatched Valley here on this arm, you can see how orange leaning Ixia is compared to Valley. And Valley, for reference, is a dusty mustard brown, so you could detect a little bit mustard in there, but they're more mustard leaning browns in the NATASHA DENONA family. And lastly, we have Willow, our matte medium dark teal green. A lot of teals in the NATASHA DENONA family, so I didn't swatch everything here because you will see the rest of the swatches in the first half of the video, but I wanted to get into the comparisons now, and then we'll get into the B-roll. We'll swatch Willow on the top of my wrist for reference, just so you have it. Willow, again, is our dark teal green. I immediately thought of Metropolis as a palette to compare to Yucca, and these are the colors that I immediately thought of. We'll start with Royal, which is our forest green. Hello, wrong arm. Our forest green, but a cream to powder formula. Enigma is our deep blue matte. Again, cream to powder. And Symbol is our blackened blue cream to powder. So Willow, you see, has a little more teal leaning, even compared to Symbol. I thought of Fata Morgana from the Safari palette, and that is described to be a deep sea blue matte, and this is the powder formula. You can see definitely more blue leaning than the teal found in Willow. And I'm sure you're wondering about the gold palette. Here are side-by-side comparisons. Gold definitely more neutral, even though with the inclusion of Python and Aurora, right, and that teal green lime chrome, we could definitely compare lime chrome to Plantasia, which I feel Yama from Zendo is like the subdued version of Plantasia. Plantasia is Yama on steroids, like sparkle steroids. But let's do Python first from Gold. This is described to be a deep teal as well. So let's see how that fares out. I still think that's more blue leaning than Willow. They're both teal, but the nuance family. And I also have Zendo because Mantra is another cream to powder, but this is described to be a medium greenish teal. Let's see how that compares to Willow. I thought, because when I swatched this for the first time, out of all the other teals in the NATASHA DENONA family, I thought Mantra best resembled Willow. You could see that it has a more green in there, and clearly the difference in formula might have an impact on how it looks, but if you have Mantra, then you're gonna have a Willow moment. But if you prefer this color to be in the powder formula, then that's what you will find in Yucca. Now we'll go into some olive comparisons that I jotted down, especially with Acacia. Let's start with Acacia first from Yucca. And again, for reference, we're looking at a matte golden olive. So here we go, Acacia. I immediately thought of Lethal, this avocado shade from Metropolis, but the description says khaki with a matte finish. So next to Acacia, and you could definitely see there's a little more yellow in there versus Acacia having just a more desaturated olive tone to it. And these colors from Safari, like Rhino and Savannah, I'll just do it just so you can see. Rhino is like a grayish, see that? Okay, aptly named Rhino. And then Savannah is more like an army green, but dustier, like more gray leaning. And Zeal from the Zendo palette, I have a note here about it, dark dusty army green. So yes, still green, but not quite olive, not giving the same thing as Acacia is from Yucca. And why not? Let's swatch Calathea from Yucca. And again, matte medium dark green olive, definitely more olive in nature, right? And my apologies, because of all the swatching I'm doing, I'm picking up as much as I can so you can see that color. Yeah, Calathea is beautiful. I love how it looks on the outer lid to create smoke, and you can still detect that olive tone in it. It doesn't look gray on the lid. But I'm excited. We're gonna get into it. Now let's go into some mustard comparisons just for fun. Before that, however, allow me to quickly swatch Yama next to Plantasia, and I'll do it right at the top of my wrist. So this is Plantasia from Yucca, and here's Yama. It's hard to see, but Yama has like that same rosewood base, except the teal reflex you just see more in Plantasia. They have more reflectivity. It's the foiled green reflect, and it does exist in Yama, but Yama is a lot more low-key. So if you wanted more punch from that shade, you're gonna get it from Plantasia 100%. And Lime Chrome from Gold. You know what? Let's see. I can do it here, right between. Lime Chrome, I think, is similar. It's similar. It's not going to have the same reflect, however, as Plantasia, because remember, Gold came out a while back, and you know how Natasha loves to play with her formulations, and you know, she's a chemist, y'all. So this is Plantasia, and this is Lime Chrome. Lime Chrome is still gorgeous, but you can see there's more reflectivity from Plantasia, and also Lime Chrome, I think, has a stronger lime flip. You can see that when I turn my hand. That's the more prominent color in that shade, I believe. Let's get into some mustardy shades. Yes, we have Valley again from Yucca to set up the comparisons, and again looking at a dusty mustard brown. I immediately thought of Dijon from Gold. We could also do Sandstone, is it? Teak, I think I'll do Sandstone, but we'll do Dijon and Sandstone. We got Dijon from the Gold palette and Sandstone from the Gold palette. Valley has a little more brown. I have Valley again through the crease. I love this shade. It's a great one and done crease shade for me, but I definitely, if you pair it with Acacia or Tipu, it will pull forward a little bit of that mustard hue. And back to the Gold palette, is interesting is these two shades here, but they're actually quite warm. I can swatch Rope. Yes, Rope is this matte here. It's going to be more yellow leaning. Yeah, not like what we have in Valley. But we have Ridge from Bronze, and Ridge is a medium warm mustard matte, which looks super orange compared to Valley. And why not, while we're here, I'll go back into Acacia from Yucca, which looks even more orange, and then Fushi is going to be more of like that marigold moment. Yeah. So again, for reference, this is Ridge from Bronze, Acacia, Fushi, both from Yucca. You gotta be kidding me. Sorry. That's a dad joke, which my dad says all the time. Beebs. Gotta hop into Beebs quickly. Prairie. I did make a note about Prairie, but I do remember it being mustard something. Yeah. Except this is more like a warmer type of a brown. I could do Freckle as well, also from Beebs. That more into the family of Valley, but I still think this is more beige brown than like mustard brown. And for Camu comparisons, again, we're looking at a vibrant lime. Fantastic matte shade. Yeah, so we have Camu, and I had to hop into Trio Chrome with Ion and Vert. These two here. We could also do Androdite, but Androdite is going to look more like a pastel sage versus like a lime. Let's first do Ion, which is an acid green. Yeah, so that's going to be more green leaning versus lime-ish, like that neon look to it. And Vert is a vibrant mustard. Yes, compared to, again, Citrine. I'm going to do Citrine from Yucca, just so you can see. They're close. They're close, 100%. Except probably, again, Citrine is a medium mustard citrine shade, and Vert being vibrant mustard versus medium mustard. There you go. So here are more comparisons with Valley, Acacia, and now Camu, and Citrine. And at the end of the video, I'll pull out Melt's Gemini and Colored Raine Safari Raine, because when I saw Yucca for the first time, I immediately thought about Safari Raine, and in my opinion, that's like a more edited version of the Yucca palette. And Gemini has similar moments, except I feel Melt Gemini is a more literal take on mustard and olive, versus Yucca is a little more nuanced than that. Now that we have these comparisons done, why don't I take you through the B-roll that I filmed yesterday? Ooh, come on, memory. Let's do it. I wanted to see how Acacia looked next to Tipu. So Acacia on one eye, Tipu on the other. Acacia, when built up, definitely has more of that olive tone, whereas Tipu, yes, it says mustard green here, but I just think the color is not as deep overall, so I would rely on this maybe for transitioning or to emphasize the gradient, whereas Acacia I would rely on more for its color richness. Applied flax on the Acacia side because I wanted to use Elysian on the lid. It's the coolest sparkling duochrome out of the palette, and wanted to pair that shade with mattes that were going to bring out that cool tone and won't look so contrasting, although I am curious to know what Elysian will look like with Valley or even Ixia. And on the other eye, I decided to place Calathea on the outer lid, and Calathea applied beautifully, and I love the smoke it provided. Even though it wasn't super teal olive green like Willow, you can still detect that it was olive, and to apply it over Tipu I thought offered just that beautiful harmonious delivery of olive, but not like green olive, more earthy in that respect. Going back to our flax and Acacia eye, I went in with Elysian, which I think is best applied with the finger. It is super flaky. When I applied it with a brush first, unfortunately I got the flaky achies on my cheeks, but not to worry, I flicked them off. But now I know first application with the finger for better adherence, and then I went in with a brush to carve out the edges and refine them. On the Tipu and Calathea side, I decided to apply Macchia, and Macchia, with Calathea, definitely you see more of that olive tone, but it has that versatility. Depending on which matte you pair it with, it will appear more olive or more golden on the lid. So I love that fluidity, and that creates even more possibilities depending on which shades you decide to pair with in this palette. I think before that, however, if we go back to my flax and Acacia eye, I applied, I think it was either Camu or Citrine on the inner corner. I can't recall. Camu is probably the highlight choice of the palette. Although it is matte, not sparkling, shimmery, or metallic, it does provide beautiful highlight just because of its color. And I think I used the Camu eyeliner to create a little mini arc around the inner corner of my other eye just to experiment with that. Citrine, I believe I placed on the Calathea side, but again, I should have watched the footage before I started filming, but I'll probably put notes on the screen for your help. And my help as well. Citrine, I think, is great as a transition shade on the inner part of the lid, just to kind of put something there, but not overtake the entire look. And then I applied Ray on the inner lower lash line on the flax side, and decided to place Plantasia on the Calathea side. Also, I wanted to try Camu on top of Elysian to see how well it will turn out, and man, you can see that lime color on top of a textured shade like Elysian. I think it was a great pairing, and also you have like this taupe shade on your lid, and all of a sudden you got the lime liner. It was fantastic. And look at me using a liner on my waterline. So Camu on the waterline on the Calathea side, and I thought that just brightened the eye but brought everything together, right? It's so earthy olive on the lid with Macchia and Calathea, and all of a sudden you have this pop of lime. So both looks were outrageously beautiful. Once I did these, I was like, this is a fantastic palette. I already thought that when I opened it, right? I do think it looks better in person. And then today, again, I have Ray, which sure, is not the most sparkly out of the five. Yes, out of the five metallics in here, but I like that for a daily moment because I do have shine, but it's not too much, right? Because Plantasia will be the other more neutral leaning metallic out of the category, but Plantasia got a lot of shine. I thought it was more fun today on the inner corner. And then I have Cattleya here on the lash line. So if you didn't want to use Flax or even Willow for lash line contrast, Cattleya is great. It's soft. You don't have to place it on the outer lid. You can just place it on your lash line just to change it up. And I think it just adds great character to a more basic daily eye. Now that we have our product details, swatches, and B-roll details out the way, it's time to get into this demo. And that means it's time for you to come in a little closer. That's enough. I applied Linda's To the End eye primer for prep. I forgot what I did yesterday, fam. I should have written notes. I could have looked at the footage before I started, but I am in such a rush today. I'm going to purposefully create a warm eye, not using any of the olives, which means I'll first start with Acacia. Again, that's our burnt caramel shade. Going in with a Rephr 27 that's ultra fluffy on purpose, because these mattes do pack, as you see, they pack a punch, and I want more of a lightweight serving to set up this look, as I want to rely on Valley for more of a gradient effect. I could use Flax if I wanted more smoke, but let's go in with Valley instead, and I'm using Sonia G's Worker 1, tapping Valley now on the outer part of the lid. And it's interesting, when you pair this with Acacia, you will be able to detect that mustard undertone 100%. I'm looking at my nose. Where is Valley? Yes, the dusted mustard. You could definitely see it more so when you pair this with a warmer shade like Acacia, where if you paired it with maybe citrine or acacia or even deepu, it will appear more brown. You know what I mean? But again, just keeping this on the warmer side, and I love that. It's like a burnt type of a feel, especially since Acacia, you see that more orange leaning hue peeking out from the crease, and then you have like that more grungy mustard tone from the outer V. That's pretty. I think a fitting pairing could be Plantasia or even Raine, but let's look at Plantasia on the lid. With the finger, again, I think that's going to provide the best stick on the initial application. I'm telling you, look at the shine, fam. It's crazy. Get the majority of the color on the lid first. Then we'll proceed with a flat brush to just get in under those curves of the lid, yeah? And after we've placed as much as we like, with the same brush, tapping Valley on the borders and going in with my builder, Acacia, on the borders here as well. Now flipping back and forth. When you're dealing with the flaky achy already on the lid, you want to tap because you don't want to blend out the sparkles. And what the heck, Camu on the inner corner, because, you know, when you have this just beautiful lime shade, is hard to resist. You could also sketch on the Camu eyeliner first and then set it with the powder. That's going to improve this shade's longevity for sure. Here on the lower lash line, as I love to do, as you know, inviting another color to the lower inner lash line. Fuchsia maybe? I'm thinking Fuchsia. Fuchsia is a cream to powder, and I now want the Fuchsia liner. Low-key. Kind of want it now because I think that would be so pretty to waterline that like orangey yellow marigold shade. So right, fine. We could go the entirely different direction and use Elysian, the taupe. Whoa, I'm pressing. We want to press. We don't want to glide, ensuring these flaky achy stay put. You know what I'm saying? Wipe that brush and apply more Valley here on the lower lash line and taking a little bit of Valley underneath. I think that's fun because all of a sudden you got this like taupe something going on, but it's so warm up top. You could have went in with Ray instead, 100%, but I like to experiment, okay? On this side, definitely want, okay, I think already at this point in time, you've seen a bunch of beauty YouTubers combining Willow with the brown shade. Like, you've seen Willow and Valley, and I've done that yesterday. Here's a clip of me applying that color, and the end result, I absolutely loved it. Willow applied beautifully. It being a teal shade, you know how those shades could be a little tricky when you're applying it on top of like a brown mat. It could look muddy. No. This was gorgeous. The Willow teal shade was apparent. You could see it on the Valley shade. The gradient was beautiful. We love it. Starting off the look with Calathea, because yesterday I used Calathea as the outer corner moment. This time, I want to use it as my crease moment. Whoa! Because I love this shade. If you wanted more smoke, but didn't want to necessarily go in with Flax or Valley, you know, you wanted some a little more this. Already, I love that. Are you kidding me? And you know what I thought of too, fam? Oh my gosh. Anase from Lisa and Cosmic Chartreuse from... That's coming. That's probably going to end up on my membership channel. You know, all the combinations, get ready. Calathea, blending wise, outrageously good. Just that alone. You could have placed Calathea on the lid too. See, this is what you gotta remember, fam. It's okay to not combine all the shades. You can use one shade from this 15 pan palette, and what I feel is going to make the most distinction. Because when I watched Patty's video, hi Patty, I agree with her. When you combine certain shades, even if they're different, when both looks are said and done, it all looks like it came from the Yucca palette, right? If you want to create more distinction, I think you got to limit yourself in regards to how many colors you combine. So I get it. There's like an antsiness where you have all these shades in front of you, or you're trying it for the first time, which understandably so. Slap it all at once, see what happens. But when you get acquainted, just zeroing in on one or two shades at a time, it might be challenging, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. So here's Calathea on its own. That's pretty. I would wear this out during the day, 100%. Let's place a little bit of citrine on the inner corner. Well, inner arc is not as vibrant as Camu, but it does add a little bit more here, I think, just to what I don't know what we're doing, but we're figuring something out. Como Raby. The mustard gold, yes. We gotta do it. Ooh, with Calathea, yes. That's pretty. Dabbing in Calathea like we did on the other side, just to refine the edges and the gradient, yes. Ooh, this shine is crazy, fam. My gosh. I do want to go in with a little bit of Flax, just on the lash line. Will it create contrast? A little bit of intensity? Let's see. Might be hard to see it on top of Calathea, because that already is giving us smoke. But if you wanted more, you can definitely paint it on. Why not? Or just go in with, if you have Natasha's dark brown liner, I do not. You know I got my black coffee. This might be another waterline moment, because I love this on the waterline. Look at me, I never do this. Like, rarely. But with this color, absolutely. That's pretty. I love that. Inner lower lash line, what are we gonna do, what are we gonna do? Well, I was thinking about Fushi. I know that's strange. I kind of want to see what that does on the inner corner. You know, it's not gonna be as brightening, 100%, as Camu, but it's fine. Yes. That works. I love it. I'm gonna brush it up here, let it overtake the inner corner. It absolutely works. Ooh, now I want the liner. I absolutely want this liner now, because ooh, that would be real pretty. And going over what I did back with Camu because I want it to like bleed into there. You know what I'm saying? Maybe put a little bit here on the inner part. That's a lot of fun. Fantastic looks are complete, so it's time to apply some lashes, then I'll be right back. And here are the final looks using Yucca, and I'll also play some footage of the looks I did when I filmed myself with audio, just so you can have an extra two, and I'll be happy to make note of the shades that I use for reference friends. This has to be one of my most favorite NATASHA DENONA palettes now. I feel like I have to redo my top 5 MIDI palettes from the brand because Yucca has found itself there in an instant. The ease of use, its versatility, the fact that I feel it has a nice balance of the sparkling metallic shades, nice cream to powders in here, albeit just 2. The ones that are cream to powder are fantastic. You got the olive tone, and you got like that beautiful vibrant yellow orange color from Fushi. The powder mattes are fantastic. They all blend so well. This is my second time using the palette, but in addition to this morning and the looks I did today, right now I'm looking at 9 looks. I am confident in my decision to say that yes, this has to be one of my most favorite NATASHA DENONA MIDI palettes, 100%. And to quickly cover a few comparisons, like I had said before, I immediately thought of Safari Raine from Colourbalm, and Amazon Basin, surprisingly, although it looks very cool in the palette, it leans more bronzy compared to Eyeliner. Yeah, Eyeliner definitely more cooler tone and taupey. Lioness from Safari Raine is going to be more gold leaning, and I thought about Como Raby. Como Raby is going to be, I think, a little cooler, right? And then Plantasia, although a duochrome, might have a similar vibe, but I'm sure you could recognize the more bronzy rose undertone in the flip. Lioness still looks pretty golden, and then Toucan is straight up copper. Tigress is like this fiery red, which we don't have in Yucca. Yucca, I think, more overall leans more mustard olive. And for the mattes, we got Clay, Congo Basin, and Jungle. I'll quickly do Jungle because on first glance, again, this is from Safari Raine, you would think it will closely resemble Willow, but Willow is actually more blue teal, as you can see. Congo Basin, again from Safari Raine, it's going to look olive in the palette. I'll swatch that next to Acacia. Acacia is going to have more of like that dirty olive, where Congo Basin, surprisingly, even though it looks so green in the pan, it looks more like mustardy brown on the swatch. Clay is going to be a more literal warm orange shade, whereas Ixia, I would say similar. Ixia a little lighter, more desaturated. And Matriarch from Safari Raine, I think it's going to have a little more depth than Flax. Yeah, Flax is more, it looks more like grayish brown compared to Matriarch. Matriarch is like a darker bark brown compared to Flax. And Gemini, you know, just for funsies, because I thought of these shades when I cracked into Yucca. Different palette, different vibe, and yes, because these mattes, I would consider them to be pigments versus eyeshadow, you will have more longevity from melt, but the exchanges, because there's always a tab to pay, they're tougher to blend. Melt mattes are not as easy to blend as NATASHA mattes, okay? I'll go from right to left with Mochi, and I immediately thought of Acacia. So here's Mochi. I'll also do Fire OG, the medium tone olive from Melt, and Leo, the darker olive. So you see these shades are more like a literal olive versus Acacia from Yucca. It's just like a lighter olive shade. It doesn't have like that same dirty olive tone. Tipu is the mustard green. Yeah, so there's Tipu. And then Calathea, again, our dark green olive, is like more desaturated than what you see here. And Goals, my crushed melt metallic, listen, as much, it looks fine here, but we can all agree that NATASHA DENONA metallics knock out Melt's metallics. Listen, I am biased to the NATASHA brand. I have more palettes from her. I like her formula better. You could argue Melt has better color stories in some palettes and whatnot, but when it comes to the metallics, even the ones in Rust that are better than the ones in Gemini. Just so you can see, swatching Macchia next to Goals. See what I'm saying? Like the shine is just outrageous. But as I was saying before, this is a more literal olive, whereas Macchia, especially next to Goals, you could see like that gold influence, how it's more antique in nature, like overall versus olive. Lorelei is the more mustard leaning matte from Gemini, and this, you know, looks like Ixia to me from Yucca, except Lorelei has like a little more brown in there. Polka Dot from Melt, it's gonna be darker, I think, than Valley from Yucca. So here's Valley. Yeah, Valley is like lighter, more, I think, cooler because of the mustard influence. And I could swatch Ray from Yucca in comparison to Goals, and even Ray is like more gold leaning than olive. So those were some quick comparisons with Melt. I definitely prefer Yucca over Melt, Gemini. Even just from a packaging perspective, I rather carry this around than this long palette. This is still big. You could argue not as portable as, like, let's say an Artist Couture, a Sugu Quad, or even a Paquin. But if I had to choose, if this is a life and death situation, I'm going with this size over this size. Although with the whole SD card situation, my video was delayed, I'm happy that I got acquainted with the palette and came back on here to speak about it further. It solidified my feelings. It validated how I felt about this palette initially when I saw it. I knew it was going to be a hit. The fact that it's so earthy, but colorful at the same time. It really, Natasha knows how to do color stories. I don't care what anyone says. Yes, her formulas might be inconsistent because she just loves to create and loves to try new things, but the color stories, fam, she nails, and she nails more than others. Yes, Yucca though is one of her best. For her summer release, my goodness, everything from the packaging, I'm so sorry, my grubby dirty fingers were the packaging. From the actual colors inside, I truly think it embodies that feel like I had described at the beginning. When the sun hits the leaves, how it looks on the wall, that gradient shadow effect that you know and love so much. And to have it captured here in makeup that now we could put on our eyeballs. Fantastic. I will continue to use this palette thoroughly. And yes, it is the top of June, so expect for it to be on my June favorites list. And for my members, let me know if you want to see more looks with this palette, or you want to see a comparison with Safari Rain or even Melt, Showdown time. Those are always fun. I'll see you all down in those comments, fam, and until then, that is around. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up or maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I will see you on here again with another review tutorial, NATASHA DENONA extravaganza, or an updated top 5 MIDI list that might be happening. Take care, and I will see you again soon.